Hello there. I'm John Panepinto, and I'm here once again on the Rockaway Theater stage with the cast of this fall's big production. Well, small big production.
As big as an 11-person show can get.
As big as an elephant.
Nice.
I'm here with the cast of Rockaway Theater Company's The Elephant Man. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
I am Byron Hagan, and I am playing the Elephant Man, Joseph Merrick.
Do we look into the camera?
If you want to.
I don't want to. I'm Frank Caiati. I'm the director. I also play Frederick Treves in the show.
I'm Omer, and I am playing Mrs. Kendall.
Is that one name, like Rihanna?
And like Cher or Madonna.
Just Omer.
Omer.
I like
Omer
that.
Koren.
You have a last name.
Yes, I do have a last name.
Right.
I don't know, just they didn't feel that official, so.
Okay, that's fine. So, I saw a little bit of the show tonight. It was fantastic. I saw a little of it the other day. It was great. You know, fantastic's better than great. It'll just get better.
Hopefully.
No, it's a really, really interesting show. It's very different than anything we've done here before, to my knowledge. So my first question was going to be to Frank, who is the director of the show, as well as in the show.
Yep.
But first and foremost, as director, you had to make the choice to do this show.
I did. That's right.
So what fueled that choice?
So I knew I didn't want to do a musical this season. I've been doing a lot of musicals, so that was the first thing. And I wanted to do something that had room in it to interpret it how you want, right? I feel like there are some plays that are very well, you read it, and that's sort of how it's done, and it's ways it's been done, and there's expectations on certain plays, and that's sort of what you do, and you put it on, and it's good, and whatever. But for this, I felt I was looking for something that had wiggle room, that could sort of get reinvented in its staging, that could be sort of pared down. I guess we'll talk about it later, but there's a lot of movement in the show that we incorporated that's not in the script. The script is, it's as bare bones as it could get, I think. It almost sort of reads like a novel. The scenes are titled. That felt like, it felt very accessible to me. Like, this is something that we could tell the story for what it is, but also sort of put our own sort of artistic, abstract-y, sort of heightened thing to it. It felt very theatrical. Right. And we don't do a lot of things like that here. So I thought that was cool. I also thought the time period was cool.
Right. So when does the show take place exactly?
It's 1884.
Which is funny, because one of the things you guys said through before we started this, let's not talk about dates, but this is one of the first questions. So when does it take place?
Between 1884 and 1889 is when the show takes place, which I think is around the Victorian era. I don't know if it hits it on the mark. Back me up?
Yes.
I'm right? It's not exactly Victorian, but it's close.
It's very close, yeah.
So this, I think, is sort of in the era of like the Sweeney Todd, Oliver. I think we live in that sort of zone. The costumes are very cool. That was something right off the bat. Our costume designer, Carrie, is great. So right away, I knew we wanted very detailed costumes and as minimal as I can go with the set, which I don't usually do. Usually things are really involved. So I don't know how much of this you could see, but it's minimal, very cement is what I wanted this to look like, and very versatile because it has to play a lot of different places.
Right. So you really took this far past the boundaries of where it's sort of been done before,
I think.
would you say?
I don't, okay, I've never seen it.
Right.
I've seen the movie. I've never seen it on stage before, but there are not a lot of specifics, and things jump from the street to inside the hospital. We set a scene in a park just to change it up a little bit. Not a lot is dictated by the script,
right?
So it is open, just by its very nature, because it's a solid read also.
Right.
That's the thing.
Now, did you have a hard time selling it as far as, because I don't know, some of you might know, maybe not. You know, to do a show here, it has to be presented to a board, and you have to get an agreement pretty much across the board to do the show. And you know, this could be a tough sell. Especially since, you know, being community theater, there's this very specific type of audience that we have that comes in. So these are all factors you have to consider when choosing the show. Now, clearly you decided that our audience, you think, would appreciate a show like this, which I give our audience a lot of credit. I really think that they're very open. That's what I love about them. But, so did you have any pushback sort of on that?
No. I think was something that it kind of made everybody rest easy on the producer end of everything is that it's a known thing. Which we get caught in that because we want to put on stuff that no one's seen before, but we want to make sure they come and see it, right?
Right.
But Elephant Man, many incarnations, right? It won a Tony in the 70s. It was a film. It was a TV movie. So people know what the Elephant Man is.
Right.
Then it comes down to like subject matter because I don't know, well, what do they think? What do they think Elephant Man is? Because it's probably not what it is.
Right.
Because it's beautiful. It's
I've been
not
saying-
scary. It's not weird. It's redeeming. It's a beautiful story.
I've
Once
been
they come
saying
in the
to
door.
you for the last week or whatever it was, couple months that you've been doing this.
Right.
I've been texting you saying I am not an animal.
Right.
And you kept saying to me that is not in the show.
It's not in the show.
That's the one thing everybody
No.
knows, and it's not there.
No.
So I'm really interested to see how people are gonna.
The
react
vibe
to it.
is
Right.
in there,
Sure.
but that line is not in the show. It's in the movie. I think.
It's in the
It's
David
in
Lynch
the
movie,
movie.
yeah.
Right.
When he's being chased on the subway station, he says, I'm not an animal, I'm a human being. So whenever I bring up the Elephant Man to anybody, they mostly just remember the David Lynch film
Right.
with John Hurt.
Yeah. So that's a lot of pressure on you.
Is it?
I mean, so this is a great way to get into it. Now, this is a show where it's very demanding across the board, but the lead role is demanding both physically and mentally. There's a warning that comes along with it, right?
There is a warning in the script. That's
In
right.
the script. So what does that say?
Do you remember it? Do you know it?
It's is essentially, I think, consulting a physician.
Yeah.
Is that one of
that's
them?
a little.
I know that,
It is a little,
that was at least in the audition notice for this.
It was on the
No,
audition
that-
notice,
I-
right.
it came out of the script. Yeah,
But,
right.
I think, if I recall, Bernard actually advised against doing prosthetics.
Yeah.
Right.
Nicole's
or,
not.
or anything like
there
that.
are no-
Right. That's very important. There's no prosthetics.
Exactly.
You
There
transform
was
the
in the
character.
film, obviously,
Right.
but on stage, traditionally, it's done without any sort of makeup or prosthetics or anything like that. So the actor has to express the deformities, which are actually specified in a lot of detail near the top of the show by the doctor, Treves.
And so you came in with a general idea of what you wanted to do. Did you go into your audition? How much has it changed your physical form for the character from the audition to now?
I think it's still changing, actually. I find myself making small adjustments, even as the show goes on, because his condition got worse over the course of his entire life. I think he first started showing symptoms when he was 3 years old, and towards the very end of the play, it's getting to where his head is becoming so heavy, he's starting to having trouble breathing, things like that. Merrick died when he was 27 years old, which is very young. And especially for the time period that he lived in was a difficult time period for anybody to live in. For someone who was even just middle class, but someone who was poor, was a difficult life for them to have, especially for someone that had such a debilitating disorder.
Sure. Yeah.
Combination of disorders, really.
Yeah, I see. I remember, now, Frank, you can back me up on this. We had a friend who was involved in a production of this show when Bradley Cooper was in it.
Right.
And he had told stories from rehearsals that at the time, I think he was dating Zoe Saldana, somebody, I'm not getting into the, but whoever the girlfriend at the time was there at the theater in between scenes for him, for consoling purposes for him, in between when he would leave stage, he would need her there to kind of just come and sit with him because he was going through so many, mental issues with what was going on with the character. Now, I know you well enough to know that you go just as deep into a character in the same way. I mean, I heard, Omer, you mentioned before that you said that Byron was a method actor.
Trained at
A trained method actor.
Method acting school. Yeah,
that
I mean, you went to actor's studio,
I
didn't you?
I did. I went to the Actors Studio Drama School, the same school that Bradley went to.
Has he been here to console you? To kind of pay it forward?
No, I don't know him. I don't know him personally, but yes, the part is very draining, physically and mentally. I remember reading an article about when Bradley was doing it. I remember something stuck with me where he said it was something about how it was so relaxing to stretch his spine out at the end of the day.
Right.
It's really a kind of thing where you really have to take good care of yourself. You really have to love your body for this role. I have a background in physical theater. I was with a physical theater company for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, that has its home in the Upper West Side. It's called the Ume Group. We have I did a lot of training in stuff like commedia dell'arte and masks and clowning, but I did something that's called Buto, which was a form of Japanese theater that started developing after World War II, and it's very difficult. It's difficult to describe what it is, but it's a very sort of it's a lot of movements that really comes from the core of who you are as a performer. It's almost like if I wanted to walk to the other side of that room, I could just walk to the other side of the room, or if I'm doing it like to someone who's just watching me doing it Buto style, it would just look like I'm moving very slowly, but really I'm paying attention to every single detail about how my body moves to do a particular task or something like that. And maybe that also is starting to communicate some sort of arc for that character or something like that. It was just a very easy technique for me to incorporate to this sort of physicality for this sort of character that requires a lot of distortion in a similar way that Buto requires.
Right.
So
Wow. So you were ready for this.
I'm going to cut you off. He was very ready for this.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Now, Omer, your character in the show,
Yes.
tell me this because I actually don't know the answer,
Mrs. Kendall.
is a factual person.
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Dame Madge Kendall. She was a great actress who had a life in the theater. She comes from a family of the theater, her parents and her siblings. And I actually learned this yesterday from a different cast member, Tom, that in reality, she has never actually met John Merrick. In the play she does, in the movie she does, obviously. But in real life, she has never really met him. But in the play, they do meet. And
There are
I
some
mean,
interesting circumstances how they meet, right? You had mentioned this to me before. So what's the
What's
story
the deal?
there? Yeah.
So Mr. Treves, he hires her to befriend Merrick. Keep checking in to see if I'm
That's it. Yeah,
keeping it right. Because women seem to find him unbearable, and in the process of welcoming him into society, he hires this great actress. I feel like she's I don't know. I have the feeling that she's like the Meryl Streep of that time. She's like the actress.
Sure.
So he hires her to hide her emotions.
Yeah. To act like she.
To act as his friend.
Which
But
is
soon
questionable.
enough.
It's pretty intense.
From the jump, that's a questionable move
Yeah,
on
yeah.
everybody's part.
Questionable.
to hire
It's pretty
someone to pretend to not to be able to stand you
Yeah.
is pretty. Yeah. I could probably use a couple of those.
I mean, yeah, but soon enough he wins her over, and they develop a very, very strong and deep connection, which is very, very beautiful, I find. Until it gets too close and she is banished.
Wow.
Yeah, she has to go.
She has to go.
Yeah. Now that's a little controversial as far as what we do here. Was any of part of how difficult it is a question as to of whether or not you were, I don't want to say comfortable enough to put your all into the role, but basically,
to meet the demands.
to meet, right, exactly.
Which are nudity.
Which are nudity.
Right. Yeah. No. I
Right.
didn't want to say just on that. There's a lot about this.
Right.
Right.
Right. I mean, I'll just say, this role to me is, I feel all the actresses that played this role previously, it's a big role to step into, especially I feel in my stage in my career. And I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity. And I feel very, very lucky. She's incredible, and she's so well written. She's so smart and witty, and I forgot to mention before, but the real person, she did all sorts of acting, but her brilliance was in comedy. And I feel that very much comes into the text. She's very, very, very smart, and her wordplay, it's so much fun working on really, really good text. So I mean, to me, I love this play. So
Right.
to me, just seeing the auditions for The Elephant Man, I was like, I'm there.
Right, nothing was going to stand in
I'm
your way
there.
as far as doing it, right?
I live so far away, and I'm gonna make it. I'll come. I'm there. Yeah, and I mean about meeting the demands of the role. I feel like there's a reason why it's written. I feel, and it's my job to find my way to make sense of what's written. And because it's so well written, I feel like it's not very hard because it just leads you there. I mean, I hope it's okay I'm saying this, but so today in rehearsal was the first time where we actually did the full thing. And I asked Frankie if we can run the scene from the very top. Because I feel like there's a progression in the scene that leads you there, that it makes sense.
Yeah, to just start in the middle and just do it would be,
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I very much trust in his words, and I just think it's a great piece of theater.
I mean, that can make all the difference. If you really feel what you're doing and you're there and you're 100%, you know, you don't even realize that there's anything to it besides this is what the character's
Right.
doing. This is what not to get too method about it, but, you know, if you're up here and you're that person doing what it says you're going to do, you just do it. You do it because that's what the person did or would have done. Like, so you don't even, not that I've done it before, but, you know, I imagine that it's as simple as that, just, you know.
For sure. And I mean, it's like, you know, it as actors, our bodies and, you know, our instrument, it sounds cheesy to say, but our bodies and our instruments, that's like our job, you know, that's our profession. So it doesn't need, you know, we kind of need to layer away all sorts of baggage or judgment or whatever, you know, whatever else we put on things. Because, you know, we're here to do a job. So the same way as, you know, you don't actually have to fall in love with a person, or you don't actually, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, I just think it's a part of the professional integrity of it, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, and so last on our panel here, I'm going to turn to you, Frank, as an actor. You know, have you found much difficulty going from being the director of the show and being in it? Now, this is something that people do all the time in, you know, Hollywood or whatever. I've been calling you, you know, Ben Affleck this whole time. But
I wish.
no, I mean, and it's not something you haven't done before.
Right.
But this is a fairly challenging, you know, you're, you know, what the co-lead, even some would say, of the show. Like, so how difficult did you find having to piece the whole thing together, plus then be in it?
We didn't go into this whole thing with me being in it. That wasn't the plan. That became the plan when certain things didn't work out as we started rehearsals, and fairly early enough in rehearsals, 2 or 3 rehearsals in. And that just seemed like the easiest thing to do, because I think as reading it and being part of obviously every rehearsal and the read-throughs and the early movement work we did with this thing, I didn't obviously even entertain that thought. That wasn't what I was doing. I was at a different level. I was out there, and this was the baby that we were making, right? But then as we were going through it and listening to this character, right, and hearing it and not doing it, hearing someone else doing it, being like, oh, I get this guy. I'd play this guy one day. This you know, I shortchanged him when I first read the script a couple times before we did it, and then as you know, those rehearsals went on, it sort of opened up to me that way. And then something unfortunate happened, and you know, I had a conversation with a stage manager and one of the producers, and I was like, I think I'm just going to do it. I'm here. I think I get him. I think I can play it. I don't think that's an issue. And in terms of wearing 2 hats and the difficulties in there, which is what you're talking about, the cast is really good. Not that as a director I'd ever just go up and do something, and that's how we'll open, because you're not doing your job as a director. You can have as much faith in a group as possible, but someone needs to bring the disparate elements together, right? So, you know, it's once in a while, for staging purposes, someone stands in for me. And we work some moments, and I'd like to have worked more moments, but that's the nature of what this thing is now. We can't. So, but I know I have good eyes out there too.
Right.
And John, who's the artistic director of the whole company, he's going to come in Hell Week and watch, before we open for an outside perspective. And then at some point, in 1 or 2 rehearsals from now, I'll be out and I'll watch and then jump back in. And it's definitely different. I don't know if it's harder.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to have to learn lines. That's what's harder. That was not part of my schedule this summer. It was like, there's a lot of lines. So that was something. But, I think I was paranoid and I made sure to put the hours in every day and drill it like an animal because I didn't want to have to think about it. I wanted it to just be something, but I know that. That's fine. I'll just do it. And I think we're almost there. Yeah. 95%, 98% on the line. So that was something. But the cast is really good.
Right, that's the other
These
thing.
two, everybody else, everybody in the ensemble, they play multiple parts.
And there's so many of you. It's not just the 3 of you. I don't want
it's not just
to
us.
be clear about that. I mean, if we could have the whole cast up here, I would. But it's not just the 3 of you. I mean, this is a bigger cast than I even assumed it would be when you had told me about the show.
Right. It's I guess technically there's 20-something characters, and the way they did it in that last revival on Broadway is they people double. So it's been done that way. I did a lot of research on how people double, and because you have to be able to make costume changes too if you're doubling, right? And these are intense costumes, especially for the women. There's a lot of pieces. So we did that with doubling. So there's 11 of us with doubling. We don't double. No, we don't double. You double.
I just double a little bit.
Right.
She
In the
dabbles in
ensemble stuff.
She's a dabble.
I'm a double.
But everybody else plays multiple things. So that was sort of a challenge, I guess, for the costumes the most. But they're good. They're done almost.
They
Right?
look amazing.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
And
Curious.
Some of the stuff looks real crazy.
yeah, there's not.
I mean,
well, that
For example.
for example, that.
Hence.
Well,
no, I mean, well, even this thing looks great.
it's cool. It's cool.
That's not
Everything's
even the
cool.
show. It's just
Carrie
just
is
there,
absolutely
laying around.
brilliant.
No, yeah, I mean, this is a big. That's why I called it the big production. It's really in the schedule of the show. There's like 3 major productions, and then there are smaller scale. And this is really the smaller scale fall production.
Technically,
But it's a big undertaking.
I said a lot at the beginning. I was like, I feel like we're doing a musical because there's having the script so open and open to interpretation and how you want to present this thing as an experience for them, right? The script is also a bit intellectual and a bit heady, and I wasn't sure in reading it before we decided to do it if it was very emotionally accessible,
Right.
For them. So there's a lot. I don't want to say, oh, I improved on the story. No, I didn't. But I think the choices we made in staging and movement and things like that further the emotionalism to the thing. We're kind of like squeezing every bit of juice out of the lemon.
Sure.
Because it's very heady. The end is a very intellectual discussion. It sort of ends on that note, which is weird. We joked that it took a long time to stage because there was not a lot of time we were staging the play. We were staging these other things, And but now it's all together, I'd say, and we have a good ways to go before
Pretty
opening night.
cool.
I
I
think
think
you
it's
guys
very
are,
cool.
from what I've seen, I think you guys are ready. So I am very excited to see the show. I'm excited for an audience to see the show.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see what the response is going to be. Now, obviously, I assume you all are as well. I'm not even in the show. Who cares what I think? But
We care what you think.
I think you guys, from what I've seen, and I can vouch as an audience member, that you guys are going to have a real big hit on your hands here. And I think it's going to speak very well to all 3 of you as performers and Frank as a director and the whole cast as performers. I want to thank you all for doing this, for taking the time out to talk to me, and hopefully all of you will come out and see Elephant Man. Do you got the dates on hand? Do you have them?
We open September 15th. There's 7 performances. I think it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's a quick run.
Definitely.
Straight play, quick run.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing what's next from you guys. All right.
Cool.
Thanks.